Good morning, everybody. This is A Date with Destinee. We are live on location at the great Nick Sky's home in his beautiful backyard where we happen to shoot our New World music video not too long ago. And, of course, I'm Eric Hanson, your host, and I dabble in music production videos, and I'm also pleased to represent the incredible McFunky Band for booking in and outside of the Bay Area. And this is Destinee. We'll have her introduce herself.
Hello, my name is Destinee. I am a bartender. I'm also a singer. I make candles for a hobby, and hopefully soon I'll be opening up my own candle business. I have 2 cats, which I think qualifies me for a crazy cat woman. And yeah, that's enough about me.
Excellent. And then we're going to introduce our good friend, Mr. Nick Sky, that's an author, technologist, a survivalist, a independent thinker, and maybe even a little touch on the anarchist side. So, Mr. Nick, please tell us about yourself.
Yeah, I'm the love anarchist, I think. So, my name's Nick, and I'm an alcoholic. Oh, shit, this is the wrong meeting. Damn it. I actually haven't drank in about 2 years. But anyway, yeah, so thank you for coming to my backyard where we hold all congress of all sorts, including animal sacrifice and a variety of other filthy, dirty things that occur like daily.
I knew coming here was going to be a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
We'll try to leave you out of most of the, dirty, bloody stuff.
Gosh, I hope so.
I only write about that stuff. I don't actually do any of it. I don't have the energy.
Speaking
I'm quite old.
You actually do have a book that I have in front of us. It is called The Deep, Dark, Dead State, which I was pleasantly enjoying this morning. It's a political satire. Can you give us a bit of a description of that? Or?
Yeah, I talk about this book in terms of its creative cussing. It's a little more than that, I hope, but I talk about a lot of folks I don't like.
Yeah.
Mostly political figures and other various assholes and sons of bitches. Then I do talk about some folks I do like the rooftop Koreans and that sort of thing. So there's a lot of political bent to it. The lead protagonist is 45, and if you don't like that, I don't give a shit about you. But the book's I think fucking hilarious. I read it occasionally. I actually have it converted to spoken language through one of those readers that you use on your phone, and I do it in a really dark, dirty voice like this, and it sounds great.
So did you read the book?
I know. I haven't done an audiobook version of it yet. It's hard to do that. You need to be an actor.
Yeah.
And I'm not. I have a cousin who's an actor who's actually been on Broadway. Was on Broadway for like 30 years.
Wow,
in the
that's
Phantom.
crazy.
And he and I don't agree politically.
Oh, if you did agree, it'd be easier to get him to
I sent him the book, and he's like, and he just ripped me a new a-hole about how awful Donald Trump is and all this crap. So he's really deep in a psyop, and I feel quite sorry for him that way, but I love him.
If he's on Broadway, it's kind of an assumption that he probably thinks that way.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so where can people find your book?
Yeah, Amazon has it. They haven't actually banned it yet. So buy a few copies. Once it gets over, 10,000 copies, I think that's when they ban them. They just ban everything at 10,000. No, you're learning way too much.
Oh, shit. So we got to get it
so
to...
it is on Amazon. So, yeah, if you just...
999... That's what we got to get it to. Or, sorry, 9,09900. That's what we got to get it to.
Whatever's one less than 10,000.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah.
Yeah, so keep it in check, people. And that's, again, the title of the book once more for everyone.
That's the cover. I don't know if you're catching
Yeah.
that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they can see it for
excellent.
certain.
Yeah, so...
Try not to learn too much.
Yeah, WWT, The Deep, Dark, Dead State. I actually read one chapter from that with that takes place on our southern border.
Oh yeah,
and it involves a Volkswagen Bug. That's all I'll tell you. And I read that to my kids as kind of a bedtime story one evening, and they seemed to find.
Did not read that?
Yeah, because that one's a kid. That's a bedtime story.
You dropped the profanity out of the.
Oh, I don't know. I think that one was. I think that one was.
You're a very bad father. You're just
You're a terrible father.
Reading this crap to your kids. What the hell is wrong with you? My Lord.
That's great.
I like that chapter a lot because I don't like to write. I like to write about a lot of slice and dice and awful stuff, and but I don't like to write about kids being hurt or anything like that. So like I'll drop in a metaphor for when I make fun of Nancy Pelosi. Instead of having her drinking and bathing in baby's blood, it's kittens.
Yeah.
So
which is also terrible, but just not as terrible as babies.
Yeah. Well, there's a bit of a difference. And then for the thing down south, it's I think there's a baby in that one that survives happily and then poops at the end. So it's a happy story. It's a happy chapter.
I love that. And it gets the poop at the end too.
Yeah.
The ultimate sign of life.
It is.
Yeah. Pooping.
We can talk about pooping for the rest of the time, actually, because I have a lot to add there.
Oh, yeah. So I have a few questions about the Silicon Valley area.
Uh-oh.
Because that's where we are right now.
Bastards.
Those bastards. Yeah, well, we loved the show, but other than the show, did you grow up here? Have you lived here your entire life?
I've lived here about 30 years.
Okay.
And I raised my kids here, but I grew up in the Midwest in Ohio.
Oh.
And northeastern Ohio, actually. That's where the anarchy comes from, because people are from the Cleveland, Warren, Youngstown, northeastern Ohio area,
Yeah.
and it's same is true a little bit of western PA. Is we just don't like to be told what the fuck to do, and that's what being American is essentially. When people say freedom, I go, yeah, freedom's just another word for you not telling me what the fuck to do.
Yeah.
So that's where some of that comes from, I think. And my father was kind of like that. He came out of World War II. Was on Iwo Jima. So very few. He's deceased now. So, but very few people are surviving that at this point. But he was on Iwo Jima for 29 days or 30 days, and then I think the cutoff was for them to get the extra battle pay was one more day. So they sent him home a day early, so they didn't have to pay him any extra.
Oh my god.
Oh my god! I mean, it really affected his life, and he wouldn't talk about it for a long time. And finally, I was able to worm some of the stories out of him, what happened on that island. It's a horrible battle. Anybody wants to understand it, I think that I don't usually refer to Hollywood as being good sources for history, but the stuff that twin set that Eastwood did of Flags of Our Fathers and The Companion, which was the Japanese perspective, was made me cry. It's fabulous, and you see what we did to the Japanese, and of course the Imperial Japanese deserved it, but not the people. And
I can't definitely. My family has repercussions of what happened during that era, because I don't look like it, but I am partially Japanese, and my last name, if it weren't changed during World War II, my last name would actually be Matsuyama, but during World War II, my entire family was given the option of either joining the war and fighting for our side, dropping every aspect of our Japanese roots, including our last name, or going into internment camps. And many of my family ended up in internment camps. I don't know if my grandfather was there for very long, but he did decide to join the war and fight for us. And
I've known some people whose parents or their grandparents, and these days their probably grandparents are deceased, were put in internment camps, and they just stole their property. This is not America, and they just stole their property, and they never got compensation for any of it. And large swaths of it. This is a Silicon Valley story. This is Silicon Valley is partially built on theft, and not just Bill Gates stealing some OS from somebody else and building a company out of that, which is done time and time again in technology, but also a theft of property. And the Japanese got just slammed. You still see a lot of agriculture done by Japanese and farms owned by Japanese. Some of them actually had the disfavor of having to go work on those properties, and then some of them were able to earn it back and buy it back over time. So I don't know. I think those stories are few and far between. But there's a lot of Japanese influence in agriculture in the Bay Area and Central Valley.
Yeah. Well, my great grandfather was Japanese and my great grandmother was German, so it was kind of like a dual-ended story.
You're an Axis chick.
Yeah. That's it. It didn't work out very well for them.
Tokyo Rose at the mic.
Yeah, there we go.
But so if you weren't born and raised here in the Silicon Valley, obviously 30 years ago things were much different, but what drove you into coming out here?
A little Mazda RX-7 that I bought. That's what actually drove me. Actually, I covered on the back cover of the book, or somewhere in the back part of the book, I think.
Yeah.
It was Jimmy Carter era, and they were destroying the country then as now.
Yeah.
And so, that's their job. The government's here to fuck you up and, dumb you down and control you and ruin the economy, and then give you a little boost and then wreck it again, so that they
100%.
can buy on the dips and sell on the peaks, I guess. So I drove here fleeing a really bad economy after graduating from Ohio State University.
Yeah.
And had heard that there was actually a bit of a silicon gold rush happening. And did that. And this is way pre-internet. This is when most engineers were self-taught in Silicon Valley. So it was really about half the time I sold to engineers a lot from the various products that I represented from different companies way back when.
Okay.
And so I dealt with engineering a lot, and about half of them are self-taught. So they and that's hard to do when you actually have to do it from written books, and there's no internet to just access everything really quickly.
When there's not that, like a advertisement on Google that says, "Let me teach you how to be an engineer in 24 hours."
Yeah, which is actually a good thing at some level,
Yeah.
because you get people that are able to come at engineering problems from a different perspective. But back then it was different industry entirely, and now there was this wave of MBAs that ran everything for a while.
Mm-hmm.
By that time, I'd achieved upper middle management, and then later executive ranks. So I was able to see all these, and then hire or not hire a lot of those very same Harvard MBAs. I had people say, "Oh, she or he worked for went to school at Harvard." I said, "Well, that's great. I got everybody should own one." So I wouldn't hire necessarily on the basis of Ivy League education. I hired on ability, and that irritated my superiors to a great degree.
Outstanding.
Possibly. Interesting. So you have been here for 30 years, and you own this, wonderful plot of land here. I think it's great.
Thank you.
Do you have any regrets, or do you love it here? Do you hate it?
I like the weather. I don't like the politics at all. The politics were not like this when I moved here, and I saw them. Eric was part of my great awakening, essentially, of understanding why politics matter, and who I was as a victim of politics, because we're all victims that way. It's a control grid, and they're doing their best to fuck us in every 6 ways to Sunday. But he was part of my great awakening in that regard, and went through the usual stuff. You're a liberal when you're young, and then I was always more of a Jeffersonian liberal, and then I transitioned way past the conservative label and all that. Now I'm a fucking anarchist, so not a nihilist. I just don't want people to tell me what to do, and that's how we all should be.
Outstanding. And this is fascinating, and we're going to be back in a moment just after this break, and we will continue with the great Nick Skye, author of WWT, The Deep, Dark, Dead State. And you know what to do to support the cause is get on Amazon up to the 10,000. Once you realize that many are on there, then you know what
I made that part up. By the way.
All right. So we'll be back in just a moment. And we're back in the beautiful backyard. The sun's kind of on my shoulders. I friggin' love it. It's warming me up. One of the things Nick was touching on was kind of how we interacted with each other several decades ago. And at that time, we used to have some debates because he was kind of on the side of certain political brands that were in power at the time, with some caveats, like concerning Second Amendment, as I recall. And one time he became quite curious. I brought in this Rush Limbaugh book to work. There was a Christmas gift for my brother. And I was just carrying it around, and Nick goes, Rush Limbaugh's a big dummy. And I'm like, well, what did he say that you disagree with? And he found himself unprepared.
No, I was clueless.
Yes, so he then apparently...
Semi-retarded, actually.
But he was always a very colorful personality. I mean, he was... he just had a fantastic aura about him, and was just so. He and I always like had I think a profound connection because we're both very E-type and extroverted kind of personalities. So ultimately, after that, his curiosity was stoked adequately that he decided to give himself a test. And he did this test by choosing to read the entirety of 2 newspapers every day for a month. And the paper that he chose to represent the left side was San Jose Mercury. What could be better? And then he chose the Wall Street Journal to represent the right. And after that month exercise, he was completely different person in terms of politics. It was just a very rapid awakening that we invite many in the audience to do something similar. And
I think that whole exercise is about focus. It's like I wasn't focused on politics really at all, and about that which affects everything about your world is affected by the politics that surround you. Politics of your household, the politics of your neighborhood, politics of the state and federals. Federal Nazis. And my subsequent to that, I dropped my subscription to the San Jose Mercury News. And I had a subscription for a while to the controlled opposition, which is Wall Street Journal. It used to be a lot better back then. Remember, we're going back about 30 years.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't read the Wall Street Journal today, but it certainly was a useful counterpoint to the shit that they try to pour inside your head from liberal rags, even local media, and then, CNN and all that nonsense. And, I don't watch any of that shit anymore. They're all controlled opposition. They're not worth a goddamn. And they're quite destructive. So it's alternative media. If you're not paying attention to alternative media, then you have your head up your ass. You need to pull your head out of your ass. It's a shitty business down there. And see what is happening to the world around you. And at some point here, we'll talk about maybe food and growing and people's independence and how that is being taken from us as we speak. But I'll hand it back to you for a moment.
That's what I wanted to get into next. But before we get into that, I wanted to ask you, do you have any advice on alternative media?
Yeah, well, if you're not watching InfoWars, you're not getting the full story. You got to listen to Alex Jones.
Jones!
Yeah. And then for Glenn Beck's good for Alex Jones Light. He's got his head on square these last few years.
Glenn Beck.
And he's, for people that are kind of not immersed in this and haven't been looking at what they're doing to us politically and how they're trying to dumb us down and take away our sovereignty as independent individuals and enslave us all, which they've pretty well successfully done. He's good for that, to sort of introduce folks into the awakening a bit. And there's a lot of the good stuff. You mentioned a few, actually, that I don't listen to them all the time, but I've heard of the folks and listened to them occasionally.
Yeah.
When I ricochet past some of the other alternative media that's out there.
That's how I feel about Alex Jones and Glenn Beck, actually, because I've had plenty of people tell me to listen to Glenn Beck. I would recommend Timcast IRL, Tim Pool. He has a variety of different people on his show all the time, and including Michael Malice, who is an anarchist. He has Alex Jones on his show. He's had Joe Rogan on his show before. That he actually just recently did a big thing with the Daily Wire and Ben Shapiro. Mm-hmm. So his show used to be more of like a middle ground show. I think it's kind of looked at more of like a right leaning a little bit. Just if you consider like the Overton scale, mm-hmm. I don't think it's actually right leaning. It's just considerably.
The guy I really like right now is Cliff High. You spell his name CLIF. High, like you're high.
Like you're high.
And he's an incredibly interesting guy. He's this guy that technologist. He's probably he's a little older than I, so not a lot older. But he has a great perspective. I can't repeat a lot of it here because this guy has done a lot of podcasts and is best to represent the views that he represents. And I love what he talks about. And a lot of his stuff is more ethereal. It's more about religion versus some alternatives to religion. Essentially, I'm not an atheist, so I don't know where you classify him, but he's got his own. He's not too big on an organized religion, although he's a very spiritual guy. So very much worth that. He's a a self-proclaimed schizoid. I think he called it schizoid normal. His brother had died of schizophrenia.
Oh.
Kind of like R. Crumb, like the guy who did Mr. Natural's brother died of schizophrenia, and being a brother of and having some of the same genetics, he has he's been affected by that.
Yeah.
And he's also did a lot of psychedelics in his life. And has come to some very interesting conclusions about things. And I encourage everybody to listen to Cliff High.
Yeah.
Just do a search on, what the hell is it? Not Brighteon. It's the other platform.
Getter.
Oh, no, Rumble or BitChute.
BitChute. Sorry, thank you.
Excellent.
Starts with me. So
I'll definitely give him a
BitChute,
listen.
he's on it. You'll like his stuff, and
Yeah.
it's some of it's wowing. It's not the typical left-right paradigm bullshit. It's not about left and right, man. It's about humanity. It's about up and down, about these motherfuckers trying to take away our sovereignty, ruin us, and enslave us, which they have, in fact, done. You are all slaves. Please understand. Me too. But I'm breaking out, man, and we're all going to break out of this happy horse shit, and they're not going to have their way with us for another 1,000 years. They've done enough damage.
So speaking of breaking out, I kind of want to get into the aspect of managing your own and taking care of your own property and growing food and being self-sustaining. So I have some questions about that. I hear that you're incredibly self-sustaining. I'm
trying to become very self-sustaining, but it's really hard. I live in suburbia. I live in San Jose, California, which is essentially a bedroom community for Silicon Valley, and it's like a lot of other bedroom communities across the country. Midwest out here, East Coast. And what do you do when the stores don't have any food, which is coming your way, folks, in about T-minus 3 months and counting. We're not going to have food at the Safeway like we've had it easy. These are the good old days.
Yeah.
We're going into a dark space here. It's going to be 12 months, 18, 24 months. But then we're going to start, during that process, we're throwing off the shackles of these controllers, are controlling the powers of the be, the political folks, the banking cartel, all of those motherfuckers. We're going to throw them off, and we're going to build. The best thing to do is start now. Build a parallel system where you're bartering with your neighbors. You're growing your own food. I have, as you see, we're sitting on the grounds of what used to be the old Almaden Winery, and it's the oldest. There's a historical landmark in the middle of the park there that we helped put together with the city. That is the oldest non-operating winery building in the state of California. It's a California historical landmark. Yeah. So wine country started here. It didn't really start in Napa. You guys can argue all you want. It started here, but it is no longer here. The Nexus has switched. But so I have all the wine barrels. These are actually whiskey barrels. There's a subtle difference, but I use them for container farming. I use them for collecting rainwater, which is the cleanest water you're ever going to get. Yeah. And it's much better than even well water. You think of well water, that's probably real clean. Sometimes it's awful, and you got to filter it. But well water's okay if you do the right stuff to condition it. The city water is dangerous as hell. They put stuff in there intentionally, and if you don't know that, you're not paying attention, man. They put the haloids in there. They put the fluorides in there, and they're trying to dumb you down. They're trying to... the pineal gland gets calcified, and you are no longer the psychic individual that you were born as when you came out of the womb. And you need that. That's how we communicate. There's people talk about nonverbal communication. Yeah, there's a bunch of nonverbal communication happening here. We're looking at each other. Facial
whether
expressions,
it's
and all that.
body language.
But it's much more than that. We're all psychic. Now, I don't claim to have psychic experiences beyond the norm, but the norm is pretty good, and that's how we communicate.
Well,
otherwise you got a punt.
Long talk with friggin' Zoom. Man, I tell you. Okay.
So I guess you're picking right up where she...
I'll just do an outro and then an intro. And we're back with... A Date with Destinee, and Nick Sky, the great Nick Sky, author of WWT, The Deep, Dark, Dead State, is with us. And he has a fantastic radio voice, as you might have noticed. And I've been getting by with like a face for radio. And so between the two of us, and with Destinee especially, who has a face for television and film, we should be doing real well. So I'll let you continue with Nick. Destinee, go ahead and lead in with the question I think you were.
Absolutely. So I got cut off accidentally before, but what I was stating was there's actually scientific evidence to show that we do have some capability of like psychic interactions. You know, when you're sitting around and whether you're alone and you can just feel the presence of someone staring at you, that I feel like
it's called paranoia, and it doesn't make you wrong.
I get that a lot.
No, I feel the same way.
Yeah.
Everybody's had those. We're trained, we're socialized not to pay attention to that. We're socialized to ignore that and look for the double-blind study. Nonsense. That's not, that's not humanity, and that's not even really science to look for the double-blind study every time. Scott Adams does that. He makes a mistake on that. I like to listen to him once in a while. Less so these days because his podcast has gotten less interesting over time. So that's a criticism. But his books are fabulous.
Yeah.
Scott Dilbert guy. But, he comes up with some really bright stuff once in a while, right? And he's got some training. But I don't know why I'm going on the Scott Adams bent. But it's not all about, I know what it was. It's not all about double-blind studies. It's not all about I am the science, so says Dr. Fakey. Nonsense. We know intuitively, we can feel it in your heart and you can feel it in your soul. Everything is done with your endocrine system. Everything is done with hormonal, all decisions are made with hormonal influence and the balance. If that's off, then your decision making won't be as good. That doesn't mean we're all running around here with our hair on fire. They're all just ultra overly emotional beings. But we are emotional beings, and that is what separates us from the beasts. And we're not equivalent to the beasts. We are soon going to evolve into something much greater, and it's not going to be AI, and it's not going to be the Neuralink. And by the way,
I hope not.
Elon Musk. Fucking Antichrist. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, you think? Oh, wow.
I love that he's buying Twitter and all that stuff, and he's a really smart guy, but I think he's the Antichrist. I'll just leave it at that.
I have a love-hate relationship with him because I totally agree. I love that he's buying Twitter. I love that he stands up for free speech, but at the same time, like this whole chip thing, in the brain thing, it's like, I'm not really sure that's the direction I want humanity to go.
The people that come back from the war, we're going to help them, and they're going to make them more ambulatory. Why'd you fuck them up in the first place? You sent them to war. We don't need any of these wars.
It almost seems like, in Hollywood, you have those, they're not even villains, where you have this person that just cares and he loves humanity so much that they create like this beautiful, wonderful power, but then eventually some fuck up is going to take over and use it for evil, which is kind of how I see. And I know that's
it's better when you say fuck up, because when I say fuck up, it doesn't have as much impact.
Well, I love that. I'm going to have to say it more often. But that's kind of how I feel about it. It's like maybe his like mentality is in the right place, but it's initially going to be taken over by the people in power who are going to just want us to.
Yeah, it's inhuman. It's it's inhumane. It's inhuman, and it's something that you got to drop right now. And he's all in on it, so that makes me very nervous about him as as sort of a social controlling authority, because he's very impactful.
And those of you who are down to get the Neuralink, good on you, but that'll mean that there are less of us who have less people to worry about in the world.
Yeah, that and the robot dogs and all the other happy horse shit. Those robot dogs, come around here, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I'm better armed than most SWAT teams. Fuck you. It's not going to rock for you.
I love that.
Fire, Molotov cocktails, my car slamming into the little robot dog. Done. Love that. So speaking of things that are impure in our body, I think what comes to mind is the chemicals. I've been accused of that, by the way. just general. Go.
Really interesting. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. But like the chemicals that they put in our water and in our food, like testosterone levels are so down. Yeah. I think getting back to the whole like growing your own food and collecting your own water, and I think that you can give us a lot of advice on how to start doing that and how you started doing that. Like, when did you start making the conscious decision that I need to start preparing for this?
Yeah, I saw the shitstorm coming from a few years ago, but not quite like it's playing out, and it's happening. It's coming down fast, but don't let me break you. It's happening right now. So there's several ways to grow your own food, and some of them are quite easily, like hydroponic stuff. Everybody's heard of that.
Yeah.
But it's just, you don't need the bubblers. You don't need all this nonsense. You don't need a complicated system. You just need a bin from Home Depot, cut some holes in the lid, put these little things called net pots in there, and some coconut coir, which is ground up coconut shells.
Yeah.
Not the inside, not the meat, but it's the shells. So
Just
it's
the
an
shells.
inert sort of medium.
Do you buy those or do you make them yourself?
Yeah, those I buy. They're
Okay.
inexpensive. They put this whole thing together for like $40 or something like that. Dump in the right amount of nutrients and check the pH. That's it, man.
Yeah.
And then it grows like a son of a bitch. You'll grow tomatoes. You can grow just about anything you want except for tubers. Tubers being
You need
stuff
those.
that goes underground. So that's where I do the container farming with these 3/4 wine barrels that you see
Yeah.
sitting around here. And
You can grow a lot of potatoes in that.
can, and you do something called straw bale farming. As you
Mm-hmm.
drove in, you probably saw this with some weird straw bales in my front yard, 8 straw bales. And what you do is you take this and you treat them really heavily with nitrogen, like urea, which is, I think if we'll all go out and piss on my straw bales, that'll help things along. 'Cause
Oh, hell yeah.
That is what it is. But not heavy nitrogen, it breaks down the straw inside, and then after it hits 120 degrees, it comes down. This takes about 2 weeks. Now you got the perfect growing medium, and you can grow things like potatoes in there, which are very highly caloric, which you need when you're in a grid down and food down situation.
Wow.
You need that stuff. And then you'll just pull, after 3 months or so, you'll just pull apart the straw, and all these nice little clean potatoes will be in there, and you'll boil them up in your kitchen, and you'll have something to eat.
That's
when there are
amazing.
food riots, it's a safe way, and they're trying to drag you to FEMA camps. Yeah, it sounds catastrophization. Sounds like ain't gonna happen. Yeah, it is. It's happening in about 3 months, 6 months. They cut off all the fertilizer. Ukraine-Russia war is all about expanding their control grid, and that's where a quarter of the wheat and a quarter actually of the fertilizer that comes to the United States goes out to the world, I should say, is from there. Now that means famine. If they cut that off, which they have.
Which they have. I did hear about that actually.
That means people starve to death.
Yeah, a lot of people, especially in the cities,
Yep.
like where we are now. So my parents last November decided to up and move out of California, where my mom was born and raised her entire life, and move to Tennessee. Not going to say where. But they moved to Tennessee and they bought a plot of land, and my mom is a little bit of a prepper, not
good.
not so much as much here, but she's learning. My dad is learning. They have a bunch of food stocked up, and my mom has been telling me for a long time, like, Destinee, this is going to happen. She's afraid that very soon they're going to cut off the borders of states and that I won't even be able to make it to Tennessee.
Yeah, they're going to do that. They're going to try. They're going to try to take it that direction. I'm not sure they're not going to be successful.
I don't think they'll be successful, but I think they'll
there are
try.
500 million guns in this country.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said before, I'm better armed than most SWAT teams. There's a lot of motherfuckers like me.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
Oh, and even in California.
Most people that own firearms won't often admit to it, but that's okay. Keep it quiet. Keep it under your bed. Keep it under your pillow. Keep the family shotgun locked and loaded. And when they come knocking on your door and they're trying to come on in, if for whatever reason, I want to catalog your food. We hear you grow food. We want to see how many seeds you get the fuck out of here. And
None of your
that'll be
business.
the end of that conversation.
Yep, absolutely. I totally agree.
Yeah, so everybody get a gun.
I'm not afraid to
lock and
disclose
load.
that I have guns, and I would like to get many more. I've been shooting my entire life.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. I used to ride my bicycle when I was 10 years old, and I had a 22 long rifle revolver. I just, what the hell? It's Ohio.
Awesome.
It's like I wasn't threatening the local kids. I'd go out and we'd shoot in the woods for a while, and then go home.
Yeah.
And then eat with some potatoes.
And then eat some potatoes.
Yeah.
Man. So now I'm all the advice that you've been giving is just like giving me ideas of like what I can do over the next few months.
You can grow in any small spaces, like the hydroponic stuff. That's really super high yield.
Yeah.
You'll need a light if you're going to grow inside. And there's a lot of sources for that. It's not that expensive.
Yeah.
Out of doors, do container farming. Just use the soil that you buy at Home Depot, or do research straw bale farming, and you'll see how that's done, what the prep is. It's not that hard to do this. It's like a 2-week prep on the bales. Or if you stuff in all that straw inside one of these containers, then you can grow all kinds of stuff. You're not going to grow 100% of what you eat, probably, but you're going to grow some portion of it.
Yeah.
And that can make all the difference. That can be the difference between It can be the difference between starvation, and then it affects your thinking, and then it can be it can make all the difference for society.
Absolutely.
Growing food.
So Eric, do you think that we should start stocking up and start?
Yeah, I've been doing a light duty version. I bought 2 50-pound bags of rice.
Yeah, that's a good start.
And because I figure that I can potentially knock something out of the sky to chew on for protein, and then the rice will basically make up some of the difference in calories. But yeah, right now I'm on a diet that prohibits the use of rice, so there's not too much
That's not going to matter in a grid down.
Oh, I know. Then you're going to eat whatever.
It's a fan situation.
Nobody's going to go, oh, I'm only going to have a steak with blue cheese and mushrooms because of Atkins or the keto. Yeah, very soon we'll all get to experience a different priority where basically carbs will be very good.
Yeah.
And so I think having all the rice is like a good first step, just because you can get something in your stomach, but then it still leaves you on your own trying to find nutrition.
Yeah, these pricks aren't going to win, by the way. So this is the hopeful part where I get to swear a lot about these sons of bitches.
Yeah.
And of course, I've been doing that the whole podcast. They're controlling us. They're doing their best to put the handcuffs on. They've, the way I look at it is when you finally decide, I'm an anarchist. I'm not taking this shit. I actually decided when I was about 9. You got one handcuff on. They keep trying to put it onto the pole and lock you down. It ain't happening. And there's a lot of folks like me that just aren't going to allow this to happen. And we're waiting. We're waiting for the right time.
I think the majority of the population who aren't preppers, who aren't prepared for this, they're big time going to be relying on people like you. And I don't mean for food and such. I mean to prevent our government.
Yeah, a good person podcaster that you want to listen to is Mike Adams.
Yeah.
Mike Adams, not Scott Adams. Mike Adams.
The other Adams.
Yeah, the other Adams.
The Adams family.
He calls himself the Health Ranger. Now, this guy is a maniac in the kind of content that he puts out there as it relates to being. He's a prepper. He's a firearms expert. He's also understands how to grow food. He's been banging this drum like crazy, and he inspired me a lot in the last 2 years to get locked into having some sort of alternative food source, so that I'm not forced to go to the Safeway, wait in line while they decide if they're going to take me to a FEMA camp or actually sell me something on my social credit scorecard. And I'm not going to do your social credit score. I'm not doing any of that. So go piss up a rope. We're not, and there's a lot of us that aren't going to do any of that stuff.
Go
and
piss off.
We're going to push back on you real hard, and then we're going to take you out. Is what it's going to amount to. And,
I love it.
Hopefully we don't get to that point, but we're going to be prepared to do that.
Excellent, man. That's extremely inspirational, and
absolutely,
it's extremely. It's very hard there's basically 3 main categories of the population. There's those that don't even seem to realize that anything's wrong in the White House right now, and then there's those that are extremely aware and super depressed. And then there's people that actually kind of see enough to potentially see a plan of action or a call to action that can potentially make the difference for the future of humanity.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
Yeah, take charge of your own shit. You're responsible for yourself. You're responsible for your family. It's like concentric circles that go out. It's like your household, your family. I don't care if you live in an apartment. I don't care if you live in your fucking car, because there's a lot of us that have been pushed into that scenario as well. And then you as you can, then you can maybe work a little bit more around the community aspect. That's what this is. We're talking to people. This is communication, community, and encouraging people to do things like be self-reliant, grow your own food, have some sort of way, have a defense posture, so you can defend yourself against the government and maybe other attackers. And that's the kind of stuff we have. If you're not thinking like that, and you think this is the old world, dude, you're fucked. I'm so sorry. I love you, but you're going to die. And I don't want to see that happen. So pay attention. Pay the fucking attention.
I think you're absolutely right about that. And a big issue that I see with many people who live in the Silicon Valley area, the Bay Area, this part of the world, they're just so oblivious to what's going
pussies.
on. Oh my gosh, they're so
pussies.
oblivious to what's going on. And I think to people who might be listening or watching this show and they just completely disagree with us, it's never outside of the realm of possibilities. If you see what's going on around the world, what's going on in China, what's going on in Ukraine and Russia and Cuba, I think it's it becomes quite clear to understand that it's not impossible for those things to happen
The
in
shit
our
that's-
country
the
and
shit
in your
that's
backyard.
happening in Shanghai right now is exactly, and it's kind of intentional. They're letting this
Mm-hmm.
information out, and they're showing people being abused as slaves within their own country. And they're
Yep.
they're showing us, well, this is where United States is going to be. This is where you're going to be. This is where California's going to be. This is where you're going to be in your neighborhood.
Yes.
And I go, okay, that's one way to look at it. But this predictive programming, but you're predictive programming me the other direction. It doesn't take a lot of me. It doesn't take even 10% of the population. The 1776, the pushback happened with 3% of the populace, and we're way beyond 3% right
Yeah.
now. People that aren't taking this stuff.
And again, we're with Nick Sky, author of WWT, The Deep Dark Dead State, and we're covering some extremely important topics. And this is really, we're at a crossroads. We're kind of almost past a Rubicon here, people. I don't know how much more obvious it needs to be. And also a thing to wonder about is just how can you think the way you do for some of you? It's not really just a theory when the conspirators are actively and openly telling you what they're doing. Okay.
Awesome.
Good.
Good. I definitely. So we should probably. Is that going to be our close, or should we come back and close? Because
yeah, we can come.
possibly 3-parter.
And if you want the detail about, if people want the detail about growing food,
Yeah.
There are better sources than me to go into detail and design the YouTube videos. Like I said, Mike Adams. So that's why I dropped that in.
We'll probably link some stuff.
All right,
Oh, yeah.
we're coming right now. And it's a beautiful day here with Date with Destinee, and we have a threesome today because Nick Sky, the amazing author, thinker, technologist, has an incredibly rich personal history, and also has a very clear-minded approach to where we are as humanity and what kind of needs to happen next. To ride through the storm that, whether or not, depending on our level of awareness, we're all riding through ultimately.
When do we get to talk about the buggery? That's for my son. He loves it when I make jokes about buggery.
Excellent.
He's about 10. I've been making those jokes. I used to have a website called Buggery Me.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Buggery.me. I still own the URL, but the site's down. It was quite funny.
Aw.
It was very funny.
We got to resurrect that bad boy,
Yeah,
man. We
yeah.
got to
Yeah,
bring
we're
it
gonna have to
back.
get that
It's
back up and running.
goddamn hilarious. But
But,
history of buggery throughout the world. Yeah, I've got all that in there.
I think this has been a wonderful podcast. This episode has been great. I feel like our audience can
I noticed
actually.
you're wrapping things up when I talked about buggery, but that's okay.
I actually don't know. I actually don't know what buggery is.
I'm on a ride home. You could explain to her what buggery
What is buggery?
Because I'm embarrassed I even brought it up.
Oh gosh, that's gonna show my age.
Contrary to what the globalist pricks will tell you, it's not a diet recommendation.
Yeah,
A dietary
bugs.
recommendation.
Oh,
Yeah, that's kind of
Oh
what they.
God.
And by the way, people, that whole thing where they rounded up all the pets in Shanghai and slaughtered them, and then basically locked everyone in with their poor child that basically doesn't have their cat anymore. That's part of Agenda 2030. It's all written down.
Yep.
We're not allowed as slaves to own. Well, we're supposed to own nothing and be happy, but that includes prohibition against owning cars. That's why the lefties always talk about cars off the road, cars off the road. We're not allowed to own pets. We're not allowed to have our own families. What this is all about is in line with their own written documents and spoken words. So you might want to start paying a little bit of attention about what's going on
Yeah.
before too many more hundreds of millions are harmed by this very destructive path that we're on. But Nick, I'd like to ask you, because this is way too good to stop, because I know that the depth of debauchery and stories and buggery.
Yeah, there is a lot of buggery in my life. But
Yes, no, but the depths of that and unique insights goes well beyond what we were able to cover in our short time in this beautiful environment this morning. Would you consider booking another date with Destinee?
When you put it that way, I can't say what I was going to say, which was, do I have to wear my clothes the next time? But I'm not a nudist. I'm just teasing.
But no buggery on the next episode.
no more buggery. Yeah, I'd be happy to see what I can add to the mix here.
Now that I looked it up.
She saved us an awkward talk on the drive home.
He seemed like a nice guy, but Jesus.
Now I get why you were like, yeah, as soon as I brought the buggery up, I was like, I don't know what that means, actually. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, see, I was thinking more about like eating mosquitoes and crickets.
They want that too. That's all
Blech.
a part of the buggery.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be the next book, The Buggery.
The Buggery.
Actually, I am writing another book, but we'll talk about that next time, maybe.
Heck yeah. Well, yeah, this has been great. This has been exciting. I think that this has been very informative for myself and for anyone listening. I can't wait to come back and get some more information out of you.
Oh, I'd be happy to do so.
Heck
Excellent. Yeah. Oh, and for those that are listening for the first, second, third, fourth, or fifth time, be sure to smash all the corresponding buttons to stay in contact. You'll find us on SoundCloud. Some shows will stay up on YouTube, but we know that this one's a toss-up. And there's much more to come on a weekly basis, A Date with Destinee. Also, for those that want to support our efforts, Destinee's promised to make some contributions to our store, and that is waronpress.store. Like waronpress.com, but without the com, and I'm pretty sure that some of you know how to spell store, S-T-O-R-E, and you're in there, and you can show some damn pride in your personal attire and support for the program. Thank you very much again, Mr. Nick, and thank you, Destinee, and have a wonderful...
Peace, love, anyway.
Outstanding. We can't show you the gestures, but actually we might. So if you see us on YouTube, if we stay on YouTube or Brighteon or one of those, you'll be able to get the full enjoyment of our handsome face, lovely face. And then I got the face for radio. Thank you so much.
Of course, I have the handsome face and you have the lovely face, right?
Yeah. No, it's not working that way.